Too Close to Call is a sports talk radio show brought to you by Kevin Mihalik, featuring commentary on the week's biggest sports news and events and engaging behind-the-scenes player interviews. While specializing in Philadelphia sports, Too Close to Call will also discuss issues and events happening on a national scale. Too Close to Call airs Tuesday from 1 to 2 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m.
Aloha and hello out there, everybody. What's going on? This is Kevin Mihalik, your host, as always, of Too Close to Call, the sports talk radio show here at Usula Media and Usula Radio. It is just after 1 o'clock today, November 12th, and if you had November 12th in the bingo lottery pool for the first snowfall of the year, you, sir or lady, are a winner. We had some snow flurries today out in the King of Prussia world. I don't know if they made their way here to downtown Center City, Philadelphia, but out by where I'm, out by my crib, KOP, we got ourselves some flurries. So we had some winners out there in the bingo pool on the first snowfall of the year here, November 12th. That's crazy, man. It's way too early for that. That's for dang sure. I mean, at least wait till Thanksgiving comes and then the holidays, and then I'm very picky when it comes to my snowfall because only the month of December is pretty much what I'm looking for, because I don't want it. Maybe Thanksgiving weekend, I'm okay with that. You got some rivalry college football games going on. You got some high school football, kind of getting into the state finals, and through December, the final month of the NFL season, you get Christmas, New Year's. I'm good with that. But once January comes, man, I give it 10 days or so before I'm like, all right, baseball season, warm weather, let's go. Especially at the high school level, they're playing baseball in February and it's still 6 inches to a foot of snow on the ground out there. But here we are, 2019, first snowfall of the winter, November 12th. But diving right into it, speaking of snowfall, we'll start out on the ice then. That's what we'll do this week. We'll head into some Philadelphia Flyers talk, since this is a sports talk radio hour and you don't want me listen, ramble about the weather for the next 60 minutes. Although I could, I'll tell you that. I, very much into the meteorologist type of things, because basically, Dylan, it's the only career you can get wrong over half the time and you're still good to go. I mean, job security, totally fine there. Even if you're, it could snow today. I don't know. 50-50-50. 60-40, who knows? A little bit of snow, maybe not snow. Either way, you'll be fine. It's just, come on, they're wrong half the time anyway. So if you're looking for some job security, go into the weather world out there, kids. But the Philadelphia Flyers last week had one of their best weeks in, I think it's been 8 or 9 years. They went 4-0 last week and got a total of 8 out of 8 points, which it's pretty absurd. That's for dang sure, because with the competition they played going into it, you were looking at maybe 5-6 points. I'd certainly say 6. 6 out of 8 would have been excellent, but to get 8 is just fantastic, and kind of breaking them down individually. They beat the Hurricanes last Tuesday night, the night we recorded last week, and that was a 4-1 game. And coming into that game, Carolina was higher in the standings. Watching some previews later that night, they were certainly labeled as the better hockey team. So for the Flyers to really come out and just pound them was really nice to see. I mean, winning 4-1, ultimately 1-1 entering the third period, and then that's where the Flyers really established dominance. And the goal scorers for the night that day, you had Giroux score, Couturier, Joel Farabee, he got another goal, or I don't think that was his first one. I can't even remember with him because he's gotten like 2 goals taken away due to offsides, and then he had a kicking motion the one time. He literally punted the puck into the net, which obviously doesn't count, but he 2 or 3 have come off the board for him. And then TK, Travis Konechny, continues his hot start, and those were your 4 goal scorers for the Flyers. And Carter Hart continues to get back on the right path. And like I said, ladies and gentlemen listening out there, relax about Carter Hart. Goalies go through tough stretches. You're allowed to have a tough game or two. You settle in, especially with Carter Hart. I think I touched on this last week, but because he's so technical in his movements and his positioning, if his positioning is just off, he's going to give up goals because if you think about it, right, if he thinks where he is and this is the movement he needs to make with his arms or his legs to stop this puck, and everything outside of that is going to go wide because of the angles that he's playing. If he's off just a little bit, he thinks, bang, this is all I have to do. Well, all of a sudden there's net there to shoot at because he's just positionally off. So he's so technically sound and such a positional goaltender that if he gets off of his mark just a little bit, he's going to have stretches like that. So basically what you do is you go down, you watch film, you break it down, and you just kind of recenter yourself and reposition, make sure you start from the goalpost out. That's why you'll see the goalie hit the net with their stick on both sides, or to kind of make sure this is exactly where I'm positioned and ultimately where the goal is behind me. So he's bounced back though off of that week. They've figured out what they needed to with Carter Hart. Case in point, one goal against Tuesday against the Hurricanes, who are a really solid offense. And, only giving up one there is fantastic. That went into Thursday's game, home game. These were both home games. They beat the Canadiens in overtime. Carter Hart ran out there once again. He was fantastic. Only gave up 2 goals this time. Sean Couturier, Philip Myers, JVR, those were your goal scorers for the Flyers. But this was the first in what becomes a pattern throughout the rest of the week here as we run through the games. But the Flyers were up 2-0 in this game. Ultimately, go back 2-2. And then win the game 3-2. So, they're getting out to strong starts, kind of settling into that lead, allowing the other team to come back, and then winning it at the end because literally they won a shootout against the Maple Leafs. That was Saturday. It was copy and paste from last week because they went to a shootout with the Leafs last week. So literally the same thing, different result this time. They were able to pull it out in the shootout. Typically the Flyers don't do very well in shootouts, but they won back-to-back shootouts. Actually, I'm going to Google here Flyers shootout records while I run through these games because I really want to see, where they've been in the past. And Saturday, Sunday, back-to-back days, Maple Leafs, Boston Bruins. Those are the 2 top teams in the other division. Now, the Flyers are in the Metro division. The other division is the Atlantic division. And those are the top 2 squads. So these are very good hockey teams and very good measuring sticks for the Flyers. And it's good and bad because, once again, they had 2-0 leads in each one of those games, blew them back to 2-2, and then ended up winning a shootout. So you get the 4th point, or, the 4 points, I guess the 3rd and 4th point is the way I should have said that. But, you earn the 2, you get the 3rd and 4th. Back to my point of they could have very easily walked out of here with 6 because they typically don't win shootouts. Now, what we've seen this year is that these kids may actually be pretty good at shootouts. And that may be the difference from years past because Farabee had a goal in the Boston game. He was the only goal scorer. It was an excellent move. He got the goalie going from right to left. The moment he did, he just chipped it back over his opposite shoulder, high glove. It was fantastic. Carter Hart made some nice saves. Brian Elliott won the shootout Saturday, so he was excellent in that round, and I believe it was Claude Giroux and Sean Couturier put it in there. But a 4-0 week for the Philadelphia Flyers. Like I said, first time since I believe it's the 2010-2011 season for the Flyers and having this strong of a record throughout the first 17 games. So they're 17 games in, coming up almost on the quarter pole. They play 82 of them. So by next week's episode, we'll be a quarter of the way into the season. But 10-5-2 for a total of 22 points, which gets you 3rd in the Metro division. And the top 3 teams in each division automatically qualify for the playoffs. So top 3 are in. Then it becomes everybody else, top 2 out of them. So top 3 in each division, everybody else get rebunched. Top 2 out of those teams make it. So if you're in the top 3, you're guaranteed a spot, which right now they are. Even breaking it down further for the Flyers, they're 8-2-1. in their last 11. So the past 3 shows here, since it's typically about 3 to 4 games per week, we'll break it down and say the last 3 shows, they're 8-2-1. And it's been nice to talk about coming in here, not having to just, rail on them week after week because they're struggling and they're horrible and Hackstall stinks and Hextall won't do anything. It's just Coach AV, Coach Vigneault, I give him a ton of credit because this team, they've made a few adjustments, and a couple of them I'll touch on here quickly, but just kind of in stylistic play or scheme for hockey. They've become a lot more aggressive on their forecheck, which means in the offensive zone, they've really attacked the puck, and they're trying to do this because they want to create turnovers in the offensive zone. And you're probably listening out there going, "Yeah, Kev, duh, that's pretty elementary." Well, they weren't doing that under the past regime. They were not an aggressive team. They allowed them to break the zone and pretty much tried to trap them through the middle of the ice. So they allowed them to break out and then tried to defend from there. Well, now this guy's coming in and saying, "Hey, we're not going to let them get that far. We're going to go try to pressure them." And if you're a basketball fan, kind of think half court, full court pressure. The difference is there. And essentially the Flyers are going more full court pressure and not just half court, and allowing them to kind of bring the puck up and be able to do what they want. And as well as being aggressive, and that's the defensive style for the Flyers. That's been a slight change, and the offensive style change that they've had is really they've become a dump and chase team. Essentially, what that means is you can either carry the puck into the zone, which is somebody keeps possession as they skate through the defense, or you reach the red line, the middle of the ice, the center line, and then you shoot the puck in and basically go and chase it. So you just dump it in and you go and chase it, try to create a turnover, get the puck back. And with the Flyers winning the majority of the puck battles, and you can look at the advanced statistics if you want to learn more about that, but Corsi percentage is a big one. CORSI is a big underlying advanced metric that a lot of the experts or analysts like to go off of. That's a new buzzword as everybody gets these pro football focus and kind of analytics side of things. But they're driving Corsi percentage, which means basically you have more higher percentage chances, you have the puck more often, you're dictating play. They're in the high 50s to 60s, depending on which line, specifically you're looking at. But it's a much more fun brand of hockey to watch. That's for dang sure. I mean, like I said, last year, they just kind of sat back. They let the other team take it to them. They really adjusted to what they were doing. And now Coach AV's come in and said, no, that's not what we're doing. This is how we're going to play. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to make them make mistakes. We're going to go try to win the hockey game instead of letting the other team lose the hockey game, and it's just been excellent because he's called out the people he's needed to call out, because when you play a full court press, essentially it's a lot of high volume, a lot of high energy. You need your guys to really be skating out there at all times. And these veterans, if they're getting lazy, coach is letting them know. He's going right at him. He's saying, you got to be better. You got to pick it up. And to their credit, pretty much everybody's responded that he's called out. They really have. He called out Giroux and Voracek, and then if you pull up their stats in the last 10 games, they have 10 goals and they're plus 15 or something like that. And earlier in the year, it was the kids who need to improve, so we sent some down, we called others up. It's been fun to watch this team kind of take on the identity of its coach, because like we said weeks past, if you guys have been listening routinely, number one, love you, appreciate you. Number two, you already know that we discussed the Flyers behind the glass, the training camp series where we saw AV and some of his language and intensity and practice schedule. And that's the other thing I'll touch on previous, just real quick here before we transition over to hoops. But the practice schedule for the Flyers, it's the catch-22. So they're not practicing as often. But when they're practicing way harder and way more aggressively. And that's where the old regime, again, was kind of like, hey, we'll practice every day, but we'll do some walkthroughs. We'll take it easier. We'll do some more kind of mental repetitions. And AV's going, no, you're off today. Go home. I don't want to see you. Get the hell out of here. Enjoy your family. Do what you got to do. But when you come in here tomorrow and you come in, we're going to go to work, okay? You're going to leave here sweating. You're going to leave here probably pissed at me because I'm going to call you out on everything you're doing. But you're going to give me 3 hours because that's all I'm asking out of the next 2 days. So you better come in here and you get to work. And I respect that as a player because I hated that every day doing this, doing that. Well, what are we doing today? Oh, we're doing, stuff on the board. We're doing classroom work. We're going to, just draw and go through stuff. No, dude, go home. Clear your mind. Get some rest. Yeah, they've traveled. They have the most miles out of any team in the National Hockey League thus far. I mean, obviously starting over in the Czech Republic gives them a pretty large leg up. But since they've come back, they did the West Coast trip. Now they're back east, going to Ottawa this week, and It's wild. 22 points, best start in 8 to 10 years, and certainly a lot of variables against them. So I'm excited for the future of this hockey club. If you guys haven't tuned in, do yourself a favor. Check it out tomorrow night. They got 3 games this week, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. Wednesday against the Capitals. We don't like Washington. I believe that's a rivalry night on and maybe an 8 o'clock start instead of 7. They like to put those prime time. But Friday's a game they should win. Saturday's another tough one against the Islanders, who whooped us pretty earlier, which kind of started this, positive trend of 8-2-1 in there. So, looking forward to another solid week there. Capitals, Senators, Islanders. Hopefully, take 2 out of 3, 4 out of 6 points. 5 or 6 would obviously be tremendous, but I'm thinking they'll probably end up with 3 to 4 moving forward, which would be a good week. But that's Flyers talk. That's hockey talk. First 15 minutes here. I apologize if you're not into the ice sport, but it's the Flyers. It's Philly. I dig it. It's Philly sports. It's what we do here at Too Close to Call. We don't disrespect any of the Philly sports. If they got something going on, we're going to talk about it. We're going to discuss. So if you guys want to hear more or less, comment on the show, and we'll dictate it that way. But until I hear from you, you're going to listen to what I want to tell you out there. So listen to some hockey talk. But no, we'll do a favor here, what everybody's waiting for. And honestly, the hot team in the city, just the Philadelphia 76ers. Hoops is hot here in Philadelphia, and for obvious reasons. This team, for the first time in years and years and years, and probably since 2001 when they last made it with Mutombo and AI, there's like genuine excitement about an NBA Finals run. I know last year people were like, yeah, they probably could or should, but Milwaukee's good. We haven't done it. Well, no excuses this year for the guys anymore. None. And, they're going through a little bit of adversity here early in the year. A little adversity. It's probably a good thing, big picture. Obviously, you don't want anybody on your team getting injured, as they had Ben Simmons sprain his shoulder. He had an AC joint sprain, which is essentially kind of a pinch in the shoulder. So you just have to let it kind of work itself out, do some rehab, do some range of motion stuff, and ultimately you should be okay because nothing tore. A ligament gets, for lack of a better word, just pissed and is, tight and tense, and you kind of work through it that way. I'm not a doctor, but I play in baseball. I do know the shoulder. I had some labrum, rotator cuff, all that good stuff that comes along with being an athlete. So certainly some pain for Ben Simmons, but as you saw, it wasn't like a real ferocious play. He kind of just bodied a guy like he always does. He likes to lower the shoulder, create separation as he's going up for his layups, and like I said, just a tough angle, or he hit the guy the wrong way and kind of pinch, and boom, you got yourself a strain. But he should only be out a week or two. As I'm Googling here live, it looks like he is still questionable for tonight. He got hurt in the Utah Jazz game last Wednesday, and then he since missed the last 2. So first time he's missed back-to-back games since his rookie year, where he missed the whole year with his foot. So I thought that was excellent news, and something that's kind of overlooked by Sixers fans, obviously, with all the injury concerns for Joel Embiid that have continued. At least Ben Simmons, he's only gotten hurt once. He didn't get hurt at LSU. He was never kind of hurt coming out of high school. Like Embiid was hurt at Kansas, then he was hurt again. Simmons really just had the one fluke incident, and since then has kept healthy. So certainly, you can't really knock him, for his injury or his health concerns. But I think he's showing that, he means a lot to this team. And it's kind of funny because there were some murmurs early on, or starting to be some rumbles with the trade Ben Simmons camp, or, because here we are, Dylan, once again. I think we're now 9 games in, and Ben Simmons still hasn't shot a three-pointer. I'm still just begging him to come down on the first possession and just chuck the SOB up. Like, who gives a darn, man? Make it, miss it, whatever. Throw it over the backboard. I don't care. Just shoot it. It's the first possession of the game. Like, just say, oh, hey, maybe you have to guard me one time. Nope, you don't. Okay, you can still just stand literally under the hoop and guard me. I took a picture of Ben Simmons' shot chart, and I know you guys can't see it out there, but I want to make sure I get this correct because I'll share it here for social media. He literally hasn't taken a shot from the left side of the floor. In the painted area, he's 38 for 70. Outside the paint to the right, he's 0 for 4. Outside the paint up top, 0 for 3. Hasn't attempted a shot from anywhere else on the court yet. Literally 70 out of his 77 shots are within like 5 feet of the basket. It's just, you can't win that way in the playoffs. And that's where the conversation begins of, do they have to trade Ben Simmons? And it's a difficult answer because I think we've seen it kind of with the way Elton Brand put together, the team in general, is that the playoffs and playoff basketball is different than NBA regular season basketball. It's a different game. It's just that the guys actually care. They actually play defense. I'm not saying out there they don't give a crap, during the 82-game regular season. But you watch the game, you see it. I'm not telling you anything that you can't see with your own eyes, that clearly the intensity ratchets up a bit on the defensive side of the floor. They don't exactly just give away layups. They tend to foul the guy, make him make free throws, kind of challenge the ball coming up the court a little bit more than just standing there until the three-point line. And because of that, and because the defense tightens up, it becomes a much more half-court style of basketball. There's a lot less up and down turnovers, long rebounds, get out in transition because people are, valuing every possession that much more. And that's where Ben Simmons gets limited because he's most explosive in transition, getting to the hoop. And obviously, I just read to you his shot chart. He doesn't like to take any sort of a jump shot. And when you become a half-court offense, the only way to get layups is to either post up or drive off the bounce. And when the guy's already playing 5 to 10 feet off of you because you don't shoot the ball, you can't get past him off the dribble. You literally don't have the angles to advance past him. And pick and roll, you got to be able to take a jump shot. So, the corresponding side of that is right as these murmurs were starting to get louder and louder, this is when he hurt his shoulder. And we've now seen since he's been out, they dumped the game at Utah on Wednesday, 106-104. He got hurt after 10 minutes in that one. They go out and then they lose a game to the Nuggets, 100-97 on Friday, and then bounce back and hang on against the Hornets. So they certainly didn't put on like an offensive display without Ben Simmons. And I understand the argument that if you trade Simmons, you're obviously adding something better than, Nato or Trey Burke that they've been running out there now. But the fact of the matter is, I don't know if you're going to get the correct amount of value when you trade Ben Simmons because if you look at the history of people trading superstars before their prime, it doesn't look great coming back around. I mean, the most recent one you could think of is just James Harden getting traded from the Thunder to the Rockets, and now he's averaging how many points a game? We'll touch on that a little bit later when we get into the national update, but you have to pause, take a deep breath sometimes. Guys, I mean, the kid's 22, 23. He's not going to be in his prime for another 4 or 5 years. Like, he's got a 5-year, $175 million contract, and he's going to be entering his prime when that contract finalizes. Like, it's not like, hey, let's keep him through his prime. This contract is to his prime. So he's going to get a jump shot. It's going to happen. He's an NBA basketball player. He's in the gym. He's a gym rat. He's not one of those guys out, not working hard. It's going to come. Yeah, it may take 5 to 7 years, but what the hell? We have 5 to 7 years, everybody. Like, it's just everybody's a win now. What can you do for me this year? And that's where it's sometimes when you work in the front office, it's just, guys, we may need to bite the bullet a little bit this year because in 3 years, when the guy has a three-point jump shot, we're going to want him. Yeah, is he going to, piss us off in between now and then because he literally doesn't shoot the ball out of the paint? Yeah, he is. But we'll get over it because he drives our offense. And during the regular season, you have to win in the regular season to get to the playoffs. Duh. So, and that's the type of style he thrives in. So, yeah, he gets you there. He wins you 60 games. Maybe in the playoffs, you have to, tweak your offense a little bit. You don't run your offense through Ben Simmons. You take him off the floor at the end of games. Well, you can't pay him $30 million if he's not on the floor. Yeah, you can, okay? You can. I've seen the Warriors do it the last handful of years to pay guys. Like, it's just, everybody relax. We're not going crazy here. We're not trading anybody. Simmons signed a long-term extension. He's going to be here. Embiid signed a long-term extension. He'll be here. Horford, I think, just signed for 4 years. He's going to be here. Richardson signed. Tobias Harris just signed the biggest contract in team history, so he's going to be here. This is the squad. Let him run. Let him figure it out. Let Simmons just continue. See, that's the one thing. As like fans, I don't know what else we can do because the guy shot and made a three-pointer in the preseason, and we erupted like the NBA title was just won. So, like, I mean, how as a person and like a human being, not even an NBA player, like how as a human being can you not just be like, dude, I'm going to shoot another one of those? Because if they go in, that reaction was awesome. Yeah, like, come on, man. Even if you miss it, you're going to get do it again. Come on. Like, just play to the crowd, man. If you really want this to be your town, and, that's the other underlying rumor that, the negative people out there like to start, and people who aren't sure this is going to work, is that, this is Embiid's town, and it's Embiid's team. And Ben Simmons is not the type of human or personality to play second fiddle to anybody. So, that's the city hears that, and I think we want to embrace Ben in a much larger way. But in order to do that, dude, you got to shoot the rock. So, shoot the rock. Think about it. 3 out of 10. I mean, 2 out of 10, dude. If you go 2 out of 10, that's fine. That's all we're expecting. And I mean, I can make 2 out of 10, and I got an okay jump shot. I'm not an NBA player. I got money. Dylan can make 2 out of 10. Yeah, I'm telling you. We've all been to the fair. You throw it up there. You got a shot. Come on, dude. They're leaving you wide open. Shoot the rock. But the Sixers bounce back to kind of bigger picture whole squad thing. Like I said, they got a much needed win against the Hornets after a 3-game losing streak. So how about that though? They start out winning 5 in a row, then they dump 3. Now they've won 1 again. So we'll see if the game of runs continues here for your 76ers. So 6-3 is good enough overall for 5th in the East. Yeah, it's too early to worry about the standings, but what the hey, keep an eye on it. The obvious contenders at the top, the Bucks, Raptors, all the culprits up there doing their thing. That's who we need to worry about. But the Sixers' biggest problem as a team, and this has come out recently, it's not anything groundbreaking or breaking news here, but they're averaging a league worst 18.8 turnovers per game. And turnovers have been a problem during the entire Brett Brown tenure. This is not just a 2019 issue. They've turned it over his entire time here. Last year was the first year they were a little bit better, but this year, back all the way down to the bottom. So, Brett Brown came out. He had a nice quote. He said, "This house is built on sand until we can fix the turnover problem," because that gets back to what I'm saying. If the other team even, turns up the intensity defensively in the playoffs, you're already turning it over 19 times. That number's only going to go up. But the reason they've been able to get 6-3 turning the ball over that many times is they are the number 1 rebounding team, both on offensive and defensive rebounds. So if you're the number 1 offensive team, you're obviously creating the most amount of second chances for your team than anybody in the league. So, turnovers minus a chance, offensive rebounds plus a chance, as well as they're forcing more turnovers than they did last year. That number's up about 4 or 5 a game. So that's where they're breaking even, kind of on that net efficiency rating when it comes to offensive rebounds, forced turnovers, and turnovers. But if you want to be a top team, yeah, you really got to limit those turnovers. So 4 games for the Sixers this week. They got themselves a busy week coming up here. They play tonight against the Cavaliers. No longer LeBron Cavaliers, but they do have John Beilein, new head coach, University of Michigan, now with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Has them playing decent basketball. I think they're off to a 4-5 start, which is a little bit better than the pundits had them early on in the year. So they go back to back. They hop on a jet tonight after the game, fly down to go see Mickey Mouse tomorrow. Tip it up at 7:00 against the Orlando Magic. The Magic they're a sneaky bunch down there. We'll go see our old friend Markelle Fultz, see if he's shooting the ball, taking any jump shots yet, and what those look like. But then they go from Orlando over to Oklahoma City, where they always have trouble beating the Thunder. So I'll be curious to see how that one comes back. And then a roundabout all the way back here, or no, look at that, Sunday at the Cavs. So home game tonight, followed by 3 road games. So the Sixers taking a page out of the Flyers here, going to go on have themselves a road trip. So you would obviously like to see at least 3-1. You're a better team on paper than the Cavs and the Magic. The Thunder are solid, but you should beat them as well. The only thing is tonight, Ben Simmons still questionable. I don't know if you're going to see him tonight or tomorrow. I'd be hard-pressed to see him. But also Al Horford going to get the night off just due to load management. Ooh, the buzzword, load management. So you guys out there playing buzzword bingo, there was load management for you. Go ahead and put your little dot over that square. But that'll wrap it up for the first segment here. Too Close to Call, your Philly sports talk radio show here at Usala Media and Usala Radio. Like I said earlier, I'm your host, Kevin Mihalik, and we just finished talking Philadelphia Flyers, Philadelphia 76ers. What we're going to do when we come back on the flip side after a brief word from our sponsor, we're going to do our national highlights, national headline, weekend update report, national report style. So we'll brief you guys on what's going on around America and all the different sports. So hang on with us here. We'll take a brief break, and we'll talk to you guys on the other side.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma. I have a mentor, and she convinced me to continue my education.
No one receives a diploma alone.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, go get it. You can do it.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text-to-emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies.
Selfie, nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on man, let's split a ride home.
And welcome back, everybody, to Too Close to Call, the sports talk radio show here at Usala Media and Usala Radio. If you're watching on YouTube, I appreciate it. Let me know how I'm looking right through camera 2. That's what I'm calling it here today. Camera 2, camera 1, camera 2, camera 1, camera 2. No, but this is the weekend update, the Tuesday update, national report here, bouncing around for the next 10 or so minutes here, just kind of giving you the, the buzz on what's going on here around each league nationally. And we're going to start in the NBA, the association. The Boston Celtics at 8-1. They had a tough loss, actually. Not on the court in the win-loss column, but actually Gordon Hayward, their small forward, broke his hand. Once again, he's expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks. He was just finding his groove after that scary injury that he had 2 years ago with his foot, ankle, shin, kind of all of the above. But that got me thinking, man. I mean, what is going on with the NBA and these injuries? It's just everybody's banged up. It's like it's football all of a sudden out here. I mean, Hayward's hurt. You got Zion, who's been out since the jump. We haven't seen him, the number 1 overall pick, play yet. Ben Simmons is out with, his AC joint we talked about. Kevin Durant's not playing all year. Klay Thompson's not playing all year. Steph Curry just injured something where his hand where, he's saying he's going to play again, but I don't think he is because I don't think they're going to let him. So he's out all year. It's just, Oladipo, he's still out till like December. And it's what the heck's going on? DeMarcus Cousins, he was banged up again. And all these names, I'm going, man, what the heck? I thought this was a non-contact sport here for the association. So just some tough breaks going on out there. And honestly, it's hampered the conversation that you can have because a lot of times in football, you talk about, and we'll kind of discuss this later, hey, we're at week 9. Oh, the long way to go. Yeah, a lot of injuries, TBD, Tom Brady goes down on Sunday in the first quarter. You got yourselves a different kind of week 10 through 17. I don't like to discuss injuries just because they could happen to literally anybody at any moment. And you can't, well, if he gets hurt, well, he is, or, you have no idea. Nobody does. You can't discuss that. So it's just a shame. It's kind of eliminated some of the conversation early in the year for the NBA of, well, are they good? Aren't they good? Are they good? Because not everybody's at their fullest. But the Celtics, they're really the only surprise. Like I said, 8-1, and that one was to the Sixers opening night. So 8 in a row for them. We'll see if they can continue with Hayward. On the flip side, the West Coast, it's going to be fun to watch, guys. We touched on it, but Lakers and Clippers, man, going at it back and forth. Top 2 teams in the West. LeBron James, he's on his revenge tour. Oh, God, what the heck did he call it? He tweeted something like Old King or No, Revenge King. That's not it either. Gosh, I can't believe I can't remember it. But Washed King. That's what it was. Everybody's saying he's washed up. And that was him. He started that. He was like, oh, I'm drinking wine. I'm all washed up. It's 9 o'clock. I'm going to bed. And now he's all pissed off because people are calling him the Washed King. Well, that was self-proclaimed, dude. All right? Like, get a grip here. But it's impressive what he's doing out there. He's leading the league at assists. I didn't have him in the pool early on in the year for leading the league in that category. So, we'll see what that turns out to be, but he has them at 7-1, I think it is. The Clippers, Kawhi Leonard, obviously Paul George playing in the same building. They're right there, and that's going to be the fun one. Clippers, Lakers. Can you imagine that? Like Western Conference Finals, Clippers, Lakers. You know what's going to happen, dude? It's going to drive me bonkers. They're going to have at least 2 days off in between games like they always do, quote unquote, for travel, and it's going to be the game's literally going to be in the same building. Like, they're going to have to change the floor colors, the banner colors all around the building. It's the same building, and they're still going to have 2 days off because the teams will need to travel in between to play each other. It's going to drive me nuts that they're not just going to play like every other night because literally both teams are sleeping in their own beds the entire time. So I'm looking forward to that. But James Harden, he was the only one, the last one I wanted to touch on. James Harden's averaging 37.3 points a game. The reason that's, worthy of conversation is because the highest in the modern era, and I say modern era meaning anything after like 1965. So, whatever your definition of modern era is. But Jordan had the highest one. He was at 37.09 in 1986. Harden's at 37.3, so just higher. But that's the highest since Wilt Chamberlain was constantly in the 40s from 1960 to like 1964. So literally since then, nobody scored this many points a game. And when I said 30 used to be the mark of, holy cow, that guy's having a heck of a year. He's scoring 30 points. Well, now we're creeping into 35, 40. So it's wild. But a lot of fun in the association. Talking college football now. Jumping over to NCAA, we touched on it last week. I'm sure everybody out there watched at least some of the action of the LSU-Alabama football game that Alabama finally was taken down, the evil empire. And I got news for you. It's not going to matter. They're still going to make the playoff. So, what? No, they lost 46-41. Honestly, made it just close enough that when people go back and read that score, they're going to say, "Oh, well, they barely lost that game. It was close," not knowing that they literally had an 80-yard touchdown with like a minute and a half left. I don't know how the hell that happened to LSU, but LSU dominated that football game. Like, Alabama was down 3 scores in the second half, trying to come back, never got it closer than a touchdown. So that score is closer than that game really was. But, what does this mean? Like I said, not much, because Minnesota beat Penn State. Penn State's first loss to all the, your local Nittany Lions fans out there, probably stinging a little bit from Saturday. But I got news for you guys, too. It doesn't matter. Neither of those games mattered for either team. And this is kind of the catch-22 for college football, because they say every game matters. Well, I'll tell you what right now. If Penn State runs the table and they beat Ohio State and then they beat either Minnesota again or Wisconsin and they're a Big Ten champion with 1 loss, they're going to be in the playoff, just like they were with no losses. So ultimately, that game doesn't matter. And I mean, for Alabama, the only outside thing is now that, they can't be a conference champion. But you're telling me a 1-loss Alabama, because basically you're looking at it right now. We'll just run through this. And if this is how it goes, it could get interesting if like a Georgia beats an LSU. That's where things get really crazy. But if LSU runs the table, they're in. The rest of the SEC is out, minus Bama, because Georgia would lose again, Auburn, all those teams. Clemson's in as an ACC champion, undefeated. They're good to go. So then you start flirting with, okay, 1-loss Penn State, Big Ten champion, they'd be in just because it's the Big Ten, and we already know how the committee ranks the Big Ten, obviously at number 1, Ohio State, number 4, Penn State. If Ohio State runs the table, they're in. That's simple too. So the winner of the Big Ten is still in with 1 loss. Then you get into the Big 12, Pac-12 debate. Do you still have an undefeated Baylor, or a 1-loss Oklahoma, or a 1-loss Utah out west, or a 1-loss Oregon? I mean, honestly, Dylan, who's getting in? 1-loss Utah as a Pac-12 champion, or a 1-loss Alabama as a non-SEC divisional winner? He's shaking his head behind the camera here, and it's one of those things, I don't know. I tell you, Alabama's going to get in, and everybody's going to be pissed. And then Alabama is going to beat somebody in the playoff, and that's how it works. They're going to be justified. But that's where I think it's simple, guys, and I think it's a matter of time before it's an 8-team playoff, because you have your Power Fives, you have your champions of each one of those. undefeated Ohio State, one loss Penn State, doesn't matter. They're in either way. Clemson's in. Your Pac-12. You have your 5, and then you get 3 at-large bids. You get 3, whoever you want it to be, whether it's Notre Dame coming in there because they only have 2 losses, or now it's Alabama. Now it's Georgia. If Georgia comes back and somehow, if Georgia wins the SEC, then LSU is in as an at-large team, which they probably should be, because a one-loss LSU non-SEC champion is still going to be really, really tough to leave out of the playoff. And, somebody's going to be out at that point. And honestly, that's what I root for. It's bad to say. I root for chaos. I want LSU to lose to somebody, probably a Georgia. I want Penn State to beat Ohio State, and then I want somebody else to beat Penn State. Like, I want Wisconsin to win the Big Ten somehow. I need Utah in them. I want 1-2 losses for all these teams, because the more chaos, the more conversation there'll be about expansion. If you get 4 undefeated champions and one loss champion, it's easy. That's who's in. Ohio State, Clemson, LSU, and then you got 1 at large that may be Oklahoma. Typically it is. So that's a lot of fun, though. That's a fun conversation. I don't have all day to talk about it, because I certainly could run through every scenario there and who would be in my eyes. So listen to the podcast on the side, because we take some more time to discuss that one. But a few games to look at quickly here as we wrap up this segment. Georgia-Auburn. There you go. That's another one. The losers out there. Number 6 Georgia, number 11 Auburn. They probably both move up here a little bit as the playoff rankings get announced tonight. So these are still last week's rankings. But Oklahoma-Baylor, that loser is going to be kind of out, in Minnesota-Iowa. So those are your 3 ranked v. ranked matchups looking at this weekend. So some more good ball. Another SEC, Big 12, Big 10 across the board matchup. But wrapping up the national update here, I touched on it last week. They had 1v2, 3v4 in college basketball. Just wanted to circle back, let you guys know Kentucky, number 2, takes down number 1 Michigan State, and then number 4 Duke beat number 3 Kansas. So pretty much what you're looking at now is Kentucky, out of those 4, establish themselves as the team to beat. So you'll see them at the top of pretty much every power ranking system that happens in college basketball up until now. You'll have to wait till December when they get into league play, because you'll get, the Big Ten ACC Challenge, but a lot of those big games are done for the early part now. So once college football wraps up at the end of this month, that's when, college basketball really kicks in. So that was the national update here at Too Close to Call. Hopefully you guys liked it. Just some tidbits here across the nation, what's going on across sports without getting into it too crazy. But we're going to pause here one more time just for a brief word from one of our sponsors. Then on the flip side, for the last 15 minutes or so, we're going to talk birds. We're going to talk Eagles, rest of the NFL. I'll let you guys know how they did, even though they had a bye week with the rest of the NFL playing, and then some few updates before the Patriots come to town. So thanks for listening once again. Hang on out there for just one more moment. We'll come back and we'll wrap it up. Too Close to Call. I'm Kevin Mihalik. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Sometimes the things we do or say can make others feel hurt, excluded, or isolated. Everything you say and do creates an impact.
How am I supposed to save the whole world?
You can't think about saving the world. You have to think about saving one person.
Because of you, someone's entire life can change. You don't have to be a superhero to have a positive impact.
Friends?
Friends.
What's going on, everybody out there? It is 1:45 here on November 12th, 2019, and you are listening to Usula Media and Usula Radio. This is Too Close to Call, the sports talk show here brought to you by Kevin Mihalik. That's me. If you're listening to me on the radio, check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Too Close to Call, the number 2 both times, as well as Usula Media and Usula Radio. That way you can follow us both. You can learn more about what Usula is doing out there in the community, being involved across the board, as well as Too Close to Call, being involved in the sports world. Getting into it a little bit more here than 1 hour a week gives you guys a little bit more content, breaking down the Eagles, the Flyers, Sixers, talking about a little bit of everything out there. So these last, 10, 15 minutes here, talking birds, talking football, do not have a game to discuss from this past Sunday, obviously. So basically, I'm going to break down the rest of the NFL, kind of go through how it pertains to the birds here. But they had a great bye week. Everything went right for them except the Seahawks beat the Niners last night. That was the only game where we were pulling for the Niners because elsewise, the Cowboys, they lost. That was kind of a catch-22, though, because we're rooting against the Vikings as well. But in that scenario, we were rooting for the Vikings. So Cowboys lose, Lions lose, Rams lose, Panthers lose. Once again, the only negative, Vikings and Seahawks win. And those are your 2 wildcard teams right now. So it's going to be very difficult for the Eagles to get a wild card victory. Now, I know you guys have probably read, quite a few of the articles. It seems to be the popular topic here of debate of, it's a bye week. Okay, well, let's take another snapshot. How are we going to finish the year? Where are we going to go? How are we going to finish? Where are our odds at? And basically, the long story short is the Minnesota Vikings or the Green Bay Packers are going to be one of the wild cards because the other one's going to win the division because they are both 7-2, I think it is right now. So looking at some schedules, the Vikings beat us, own the tiebreaker. Well, they also have the Broncos, Bears, Chargers. Oh, they do have the Seahawks coming up. So, oh man, who are we going to root for in that one? That's tough. It depends on if we beat the Seahawks. So, basically the Vikings here looking at it. I don't think they have 6 more games. There's no way there's 3 more losses in there. 3-3 would be really tough. And that's where you're going to need them to get to 10-6, which is probably where you're going to be at as the Philadelphia Eagles. Because if we look at us, right, so 5-4, they have 3 games against difficult opponents. And then they have 4 games against very easy opponents. And us being Eagles fans, we're a little bit cursed in the fact that we look at playing the 2-7 Dolphins, the 2-8 Giants, and the 1-8 Redskins. We look at those games going, I don't know. What if Daniel Jones gets hot one Sunday? Dwayne Haskins could put it together. Guys, it's week 10. These teams are 2-8. Saquon Barkley had 2 yards rushing on Sunday, literally to the Jets. I think it was 1 yard. I'm not exaggerating. Had single digits in rushing yards. But we go, ooh, Saquon, he's the real deal, man. I don't know. He could tear us up. What are we talking about? These teams are terrible. You got to win those football games. You don't have to win by 30, but you just got to win those football games. So you win the 4 you're supposed to. You're at 9 wins right now. You have to get to 10 to make the playoffs in any way, in my opinion, which means you got to win 1 game out of Dallas, Seattle, New England. Okay? You got to go 1-2. That doesn't sound that far-fetched. You can do that, right? It's not that difficult. You get to 10-6. The difficult and tricky part is which one of those 3 you win, because least to most important, Patriots, Seahawks, Cowboys. You lose the next 2 weeks. You go to 5-6. You win the last 5, including Dallas. 10-6. You're going to be 1-1 against Dallas. Hold the tiebreaker because you're both going to be 5-1 in the division. So what's it go to next? Conference record. What after that? Common opponent. You would win those tiebreakers. I don't have the time to run through it, but I have, and they would win those based on what's supposed to happen down the stretch here. So it's like a 95% chance as long as you beat Dallas and those other teams that you're in. So these next 2 weeks, the Eagles could lose both of them. And as long as they beat 4 horrible teams and then 1 game at home against Dallas, you're in. I mean, what more can you ask for, honestly? As fans of the Philadelphia Eagles, if you're telling me, which I'm telling you, your season's going to come down to a home game against the Cowboys. If you win, you're in. If you lose, you're out. You're taking that. I mean, come on. It's a playoff game at home against the boys. If you don't win that game, you don't deserve to be in the playoffs. That's the way I look at it. Your divisional rival. So Next, it becomes the Seahawks. This is obviously for tiebreaker reasons. They won last night to get to 8-2. They have a bye week coming up here this weekend. So if the Eagles beat New England, they're 6-4, which is 2 games back. Beat Seattle, you're 1 game back, owning the tiebreaker. Not sure that's going to happen. Let's go the other way. 5-5, you're 3 games back. You win. So now you're 2 games back, but you own the tiebreaker. Then next week, Seattle plays Minnesota. They also have another game with San Francisco left, week 17. Obviously, one of the top teams there. So, there is a chance that if you were to lose to New England, beat Seattle, lose to Dallas, but win those other games, finish 10-6, that you could finish tied with Seattle at 10-6 and obviously hold the tiebreaker. Seattle, Minnesota, and the Eagles could all be tied. And in that case, Dallas would win the division because they would beat you twice, even if you would be tied at 10-6. So that's where the importance there. And then the Patriots game. So really this game on Sunday, yes, it matters win-losses, but if you beat the Patriots, you lose those other 2, and you get to 10-6, you could be the odd man out based on tiebreakers because Dallas could be 10-6, beating you twice. Minnesota could be 10-6, beat you. Seattle 10-6, beat you. Bang, you're out. Those 3 are in, even though you're 10-6. So really, this Sunday is kind of one of those games that if they dump this game, it's okay. Yeah, you want to look good. You want to win the game. You're looking big picture. You're coming off a bye. Ultimately, though, this is kind of a nothing to lose style of game. We have the 8-1 Patriots coming to town. Obviously, a really good football team. So, play like your hair's on fire. Let's see a trick play here or there. Let's see a little bit of outside the box thinking because, that's what you're going to need to beat New England. And looking at kind of more of the matchup stylistically, or you know what? Before I get into that, we'll touch on kind of. Monday, Brandon Brooks signs a 4-year, $56.5 million extension, $30 million guaranteed. My man's a little bit richer than he was this past weekend, and honestly, it's well-deserved. I know on this show I've paused 2 or 3 times and said, can we praise this 350-pound human who's coming off an Achilles injury in 9 months and literally has been graded as the top offensive lineman in all of the National Football League? People are saying, oh, now he's the highest-paid guard in football. Yeah, that's because he's literally the best, not guard, he's the best lineman in football. The guy just doesn't make mistakes. He's huge. He's strong. Him and Lane Johnson on the right side just work in tandem back and forth. It's wild just the consistency that these guys play with. So well-deserved for Brooks. I got no problems with this. Yes, it's a lot of money to a guard. Like I said, he's the highest paid guard. I think he just moved past Zach Martin for the Dallas Cowboys, and this is kind of another little, FU to Dallas from Howie Roseman. I like this. How about this, Dylan? The guy down there, $14 million, was the highest paid guard. I believe Brandon Brooks' math comes out to like $14.05 million, so he's literally getting like an extra $50,000 more, but now he's quote unquote labeled the highest paid guard, just to kind of piss off Dallas down there. And, because now the player Martin, he's going to be like, well, I need to be paid more because I'm better than him. So pay me more, so it just kind of causes that much of a riff in Dallas, giving him an extra $50,000. So nice work to Howie for throwing that one on there. Big fan of that. But the whole offensive line, man, locked up. You got Lane Johnson. I think he's locked up through 2021. 2 more additional years. Obviously, Brooks now, he's 2024. Jason Kelsey's the only one. He's 2020. He's through next year. Because at left guard, you got Samalu, who they extended through 2023, and then they just drafted Dillard, who you have 3-4 years of rookie deal money at 2023. So the big uglies and really the foundation of any great football team is the offensive and defensive lines. Howie's put a lot of money into those units, but they've performed as such. Lane Johnson's a top right tackle. Brandon Brooks, obviously, we just discussed. Jason Kelsey's been a Pro Bowler, All-Pro. Seumalo, a little bit underrated. People tend to, because Seumalo, let me put it this way. When he stinks, he stinks, okay? He is not just like, oh, he struggled today. Like, no, he was bad today. But then he comes out and then he's good. He's really good. He's really good. He's good. Oh, my God, how is this guy a player in the National Football League? Oh, he's pretty good. Oh, he's really good. It's just so bear with Isaac. We're trying to eliminate the negatives, but he is a good football player. And then Dillard, he's been thrown to the fire like we said he would be this year with Peters' health, and he's established himself as, seems to be somebody who, I'm not worried about. I don't know if he's going to be the top left tackle in football, but certainly seems like, he's not overwhelmed or anything along those lines as we're coming down the stretch. So Back to the Patriots, though. I don't know if the Eagles are going to be able to score enough points out there, ladies and gentlemen. New England's number 1 in points against, number 2 in yards against. Listen to this one. They've only given up 20 third down conversions in 9 games. Like 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, like just third downs, 20. That means people are constantly in 3rd and long and not converting, because that's the name of the game, and that's what the Eagles are going to have to do. We've discussed this now. They're a 2 tight ends offense that has to run the football, work the screen game, work the quick passing game, and just get down the field in 10, 12 plays because they don't have that big playability. Well, that means they're going to have to get into 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, and move the chains, and they're going to have to convert 6, 7, or 8 third downs. Well, New England's only given up 20 in 9 games. And here I am telling you that the Birds are going to have to convert 6 or 8 of them. I don't know. It's just, it hasn't happened yet. So New England, what they like to do, they like to play man-to-man defensively. But they also like to, and this is one thing I was watching film on them, breaking down some Game Pass, is they play a lot of different... how can I say this? They play a lot of different packages or formations with the same personnel defensively. So typically you say, okay, we're going nickel, 5 defensive backs. These are our 5D backs. This is the way we line up. Oh, we're going dime, 6 defensive backs. This is the way they line up. Well, they'll have nickel personnel out there, but they'll line up in like a 4-3 base defense. They'll just have like a safety literally line up at defensive end. Yeah, like they don't change the people. They just change the formation or the scheme. And that's where, when you're watching this film and you're trying to get tendencies and break down, okay, 3rd and short, 3rd and medium, this is what they're going to be in, you don't know, because based on personnel alone, you can't determine what style of defense they're going to play, because Bill Belichick's Bill Belichick and he just does whatever the heck they want. So you can't say, 21's coming out, they're going to be in dime. Well, 21 may line up as a defensive tackle. No, he's not going to do that, but he could be a linebacker, he could be a D end or a joker, and you can't kind of put them into buckets, which makes them tough to prepare for, and really is going to be a challenge of Doug Peterson, because he's going to have to game day on the fly really kind of determine what's working and go with it, because based on film studies and tendencies, it's very hard to find niches or advantages that you have against that defense. So that's going to be the tough part for him. But Patriots are 3.5-point favorites. Can the Eagles score? That's basically what it comes down to. Like I said, if you watch the Baltimore film, which I did for New England, because Baltimore was really the only team that was able to put up more than 20 points. Lamar Jackson, obviously he's putting points up on everybody, but they confuse New England by using 3 tight ends and multiple backs. And the Eagles don't have 3 tight ends; they only have 2. But they're going to have to use these 2 backs, use, probably Howard and Sanders at the same time, and really kind of give them that multiple option look tight inside, because like I said, New England really likes to take your best weapon away and force you to do what they want you to do defensively. So keep a lookout on that for the Birds. 2 tight ends, coming back home here. Both teams coming off a bye. Usually I like the Birds off a bye, but if you're giving Bill Belichick 2 weeks to perform, to prepare as well, you're going to have a tough uphill sled. So that wraps up this edition, though. Too Close to Call here on Usala Media and Usala Radio. Like I said, November 12th, first snowfall of the year. Everybody out there who had that in bingo at the work pool, go get yourself your Reese's cup. You earned that one for sure, hitting that lucky winner. But once again, this is Kevin Mihalik. You can find me out there on social media. KMiho20 is the personal page on Instagram. If not, check out Too Close to Call, Twitter, Facebook, the number 2 both times. Usala Media, USALA Media and Radio. Follow them, comment. Let's interact. Let's see what you guys want to hear moving forward. But that's my time today, folks. Coming up here on 2 o'clock. Hopefully you've enjoyed the last hour. You're having yourselves a heck of a week. I will talk to you guys this weekend and next Tuesday. Enjoy. Peace.
Before I got my major deal, these girls I said before the ice